You might have heard the saying that hindsight is 2020. When we look back on our lives, we see the choices we made, the paths we took, and yes, even the opportunities we missed. Research into life satisfaction and aging consistently reveals common themes when people reflect back on their later years. These aren't random complaints or minor disappointments, they're deep, meaningful observations from people who've lived full lives and gained perspective that only comes with experience. The fascinating thing about retirement regrets isn't that they're primarily about money. While financial planning certainly matters, the regrets that seem to weigh most heavily on people are about how they lived, how they connected with others, and whether they made choices that aligned with their true values and desires. Understanding these patterns isn't about dwelling on what could go wrong. Instead, it's about learning from the collective wisdom of those who've walked this path before us. When we understand the most common retirement regrets, we can make intentional choices today that help us to avoid experiencing them ourselves. The first regret we hear frequently is not prioritizing health and vitality consistently throughout life. This goes beyond just wishing they'd eaten better or exercised more. People often express regret about treating their body like a machine that would keep running regardless of maintenance, rather than recognizing it as a foundation for everything else they wanted to do in retirement. Think about it this way. You might have saved diligently for 30 years to afford a dream trip to Europe. But if your knees can't handle the walking required to enjoy those historic cities, or if your energy levels are so depleted that you need to rest after every activity, the financial preparation becomes almost meaningless. What makes this regret particularly poignant is that health challenges often develop gradually. It's not usually one dramatic event, but rather the accumulation of years of putting physical and mental well being on the back burner while focusing on career advancements, family responsibilities, or other immediate pressures. Here's what you can do about this right now, regardless of your current age or your health status. Start thinking of health as an investment with compound returns, just like your retirement savings. Small, consistent actions taken over time might create an enormous benefit later. This might mean scheduling that annual physical you've been postponing, taking 15-minute walks after lunch, or finally addressing that chronic stress that's been affecting your sleep. The key insight here is that you don't need to overhaul your entire lifestyle overnight. Instead, focus on building sustainable habits that support your long term vitality. Consider what activities you're hoping to enjoy in retirement. Then work backward to understand what physical and mental capacity you're going to need to fully engage in those experiences. The second common regret revolves around letting fear of change prevent the exploration of new interests and pursuits in retirement. Many people express sadness about staying within their comfort zones when retirement finally gave them the freedom to try things they'd always been curious about. This regret often sounds like this: I always wanted to learn photography, but I thought I was too old to start something new. Or I was interested in volunteering at the animal shelter, but I worried I wouldn't fit in with people who had been doing it for years. What's particularly interesting about this regret is that it often stems from decades of having our time and our energy directed by external demands. When you've spent 30 or 40 years with your schedule largely determined by your work requirements or family obligations, maybe even societal expectations, that sudden freedom of retirement can actually feel overwhelming or maybe even intimidating. The fear of looking foolish or being a beginner again can be especially strong for people who've achieved expertise and recognition in their professional lives. Starting over as a novice in pottery class or hiking group can feel uncomfortable when you're used to being the person others turn to for answers. So it's totally understandable. But here's the perspective shift that can help. Retirement isn't about maintaining the same identity you had during your working years. It's an opportunity to explore aspects of yourself that maybe had been dormant or underdeveloped. The beginner's mind that feels so uncomfortable is actually a gift that allows for genuine discovery and growth. To address this potential regret proactively, start experimenting with new interests while you're still working. Take that weekend workshop, join a club that meets once a month, or simply commit to learning something new for 30 minutes a week. The goal isn't to become an expert, but to practice being comfortable with the learning process again. Also, reframe how you think about competence and mastery. In retirement, the journey of learning and exploring can be just as rewarding as achieving any particular level of skill. Give yourself the permission to be enthusiastic and curious rather than immediately proficient. The third regret we encounter frequently is allowing work relationships to become their entire social world, then feeling isolated when retirement removed that daily connection with colleagues. This goes beyond missing the work itself. It's about realizing their social circle had become entirely dependent on their professional environment. When you spend 40 or 50 hours a week with the same group of people, it's natural for colleagues to become your primary social connection. You share daily experiences, navigate challenges together, and develop these friendships based on proximity and shared professional goals. These relationships can be meaningful and fulfilling, but they're also circumstantial. What many people don't anticipate is how quickly these relationships can fade when the shared context of work suddenly disappears. Without the natural reasons to connect regularly, it takes intentional effort to maintain friendships with former colleagues, and many of these relationships gradually drift away. Imagine a hypothetical situation where someone, we'll call him Tom, worked in an accounting firm for 30 years. His closest friends were his office colleagues. They grabbed lunch together, celebrated each other's birthdays, and shared stories about their families. When Tom retired, he assumed these friendships would continue. But without daily interaction and shared work experiences, the relationships gradually became more distant. 2 years into retirement, Tom realizes he felt lonelier than he'd ever expected. This scenario illustrates why it's crucial to develop relationships and social connections outside of your professional environment before you retire. What I'm not saying is that this doesn't mean you need to abandon your work friendships. You want to try to cultivate a diverse social network that isn't just entirely dependent upon your job. Start by identifying activities or interests you genuinely enjoy. This might be something like joining a hiking group, participating in community theater, volunteering with local organizations, or taking classes at a community college. The key is choosing activities that align with your authentic interest rather than forcing yourself into social situations that don't necessarily feel natural. Also, invest time in deepening relationships with neighbors, family members, or even acquaintances who share your values and interests. These connections often have more staying power than work based friendships because they're built on mutual choice rather than professional circumstance. The fourth regret that emerges frequently is following external expectations and definitions of success rather than taking the time to understand what would truly bring them fulfillment and satisfaction. This often sounds something like, I spent so much time doing what I thought I was supposed to do that I never really figured out what I actually wanted. This regret can be particularly painful because it encompasses not just retirement, but the decades leading up to it. It's not uncommon for people to express sadness about choosing a career based on salary potential rather than general interest, living in neighborhoods because they seem prestigious rather than because they felt like home, or spending money on things that looked impressive to others rather than those that brought personal joy. This regret manifests itself as people who feel lost or aimless because they never developed a clear sense of their own values and preferences. Sure, they may have reached their financial goals, but they lacked direction or purpose because their goals were all defined by external measures of success. Let's consider another example. Let's take Sarah. Sarah spent her career climbing the corporate ladder, earning promotion, and increasing her salary every few years. She lived in a beautiful house in an upscale neighborhood, and she took vacations to places her colleagues would have been so impressed by. When she retired, she had substantial savings. She expected to feel accomplished and ready for the next chapter. Instead, she felt empty and uncertain because she had never really asked herself what she enjoyed doing, or what gave her life meaning beyond her professional achievements. This illustrates why it's so important to spend time during your pre retirement years exploring what truly matters to you, separate from what you think should matter or what others expect. This might involve reflecting on moments when you felt most energized and alive, regardless of whether these moments were related to work, relationships, hobbies, or service to others. Start by paying attention to activities that make you lose track of time in a positive way. Notice when you feel like you're most like yourself, most engaged, most connected to something larger than your immediate concerns. These experiences offer clues about what might bring meaning and satisfaction to your retirement years. Also, consider experimenting with different ways of spending your time and your energy. This might mean volunteering with different organizations to see what types of service feels the most meaningful to you, trying various creative pursuits to discover what captures your imagination, or exploring different ways of learning and growing to understand what intellectual challenges actually energize you. The goal isn't to have everything figured out before you retire, but rather to develop self awareness and comfort with exploring what brings you genuine satisfaction rather than what looks good to others. If you're finding this list of retirement regrets helpful, I'd encourage you to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss future content. It's designed to help you make thoughtful, intentional choices about your retirement years. What connects all four of these regrets is the theme of intentionality. The people who express these regrets aren't lazy or careless. In fact, they're often highly accomplished individuals who achieve significant success in their careers and manage their financial responsibilities well. What they wish they'd done differently is approach their personal lives and retirement preparation with the same level of thoughtfulness and planning they brought to their professional endeavors. The encouraging news is that awareness of these common regrets puts you in a position to make different choices. You don't have to wait until you retire to start prioritizing your health, exploring new interests, building diverse social connections, or clarifying your personal values and definitions of fulfillment. Small steps taken consistently over time can help you avoid these regrets entirely. Whether that means scheduling regular exercise into your routine, signing up for a class, reaching out to maintain friendships outside of work, or maybe even spending time reflecting on what truly matters to you. These actions today contribute to a retirement experience you'll look back on with satisfaction rather than regret. The goal of retirement planning extends far beyond ensuring you have enough money to cover your expenses. While achieving your financial goals may feel refreshing, the quality of your retirement years depends largely on the relationships you cultivate, the interests you've developed, the health you've maintained, and the clarity you've gained about what brings meaning to your life. If you're interested in seeing how we help our clients navigate retirement complexities just like these, I encourage you to visit our website, schedule a call. Understanding how to design days that feel meaningful and engaging is one of the most practical challenges retirees face. And having strategies for this transition can make an enormous difference in your overall satisfaction with this phase of life. So if you're interested in more retirement insights just like this video, feel free to subscribe to the channel. and like this video so you don't miss the next one. This is Patrick Shope, wishing you a stress-free retirement. I'll see you soon.